climate change is something very important in our world, and so far the government tackled it. Even international meeting, it fails because most governments are very selfish, and most of them are controlled directly or indirectly by transnational corporations, and transnational corporations are very greedy. So I feel that to tackle this issue, you need spiritual depth. And the best thing in any religion is spiritual depth. Whether Buddhist or Christian or Muslim, the majority of Buddhists are unfortunately going along with the mainstream and not aware of climate change. But they are socially engaged Buddhists. These are a small group of people, but we have them in almost every country now. So I think if these people come together, we can make sense using our spiritual experience, our cultural experience, and share in which way we can do together. Because if we are aware that climate change is one thing that threatens the people, if something gone wrong, if the world become too hot, too much flooding, and of course if you think that latest technology can help, can solve, it never would. But from the Buddhist perspective, we have to understand nature, to be with nature. So I think together we can perhaps have some meaningful discussion and provide something alternative from the mainstream. Although these may be small group of people, but if small group of people make something meaningful, it may catch on to the majority eventually.
When we met last time, as all the INAB members all over the world in Chiang Mai, there was a proposal that we as a Buddhist has a very strong responsibility to look into the climate change issue. So then we had a lot of discussion on that. So then we decided, there was a proposal came up, let's do a climate change conference on inviting other religious leaders. Because the reason was, the last few years, governments will get together, politicians will get together, policymakers will get together, but their voices were only, that none of these bigger policy-making bodies or government bodies, it was not represented the real voice of the religious leaders. And when it comes to the nature, the climate change, it is so important that because of the religious leaders, spiritual people have done a lot. That they are the people who are really looking after the water, jungle, forest and birds and everything, biodiversity. So then when this came up, we took the responsibility as a Sri Lanka organization and members of the INAB to host this in Sri Lanka. That is how it was started.
So this conference is really about creating a roadmap, a common sense of purpose, a shared language, a witnessing. These people, you have to love them so much, because we have this very complicated conference to do. They said, no, I want you to see the villages of Sri Lanka, the north of Sri Lanka. Displaced people, drought, flooding, the sea is eating the shoreline away, people don't have enough food. I thought, we have a big conference to do. Are you sure you want to do this? 2 days on the road. At every village, the people describe climate change in detail. Sometimes people will tell you, the villagers don't know about climate change, people don't know about climate change. They know everything. They live it. It's their life, it's their pain, their challenges, their fear. They've seen it all. They've been through wars, they've been through killing, terrible things have happened to them. But on these days, they're not talking to us about that. They're talking to us about that the rain doesn't fall, that the sea is surging, and that they go out on their fishing boats on a clear day, and suddenly there's this terrible storm that they didn't know why is that coming now. So that also, again, grounded us. This is not a theoretical discussion. This is about human suffering and human well-being, but about other species. So the idea of this conference is how to find our joint energy and our light and our will, and to work at the different levels. I think you'll hear a lot of people at this conference talking about at their local level what needs to be done. But there's another level that I am inviting us all to get involved in, is to speak truth to those in power.
Why we have climate change, or why we have so much of violence in the world, or why we have poverty in the world, all these problems can be reduced to one problem, one cause. That cause is our ignorance of reality, our avidya. Our ignorance of reality promotes an ego within us, whereas we have no ego, but we think we have an ego. So that ego creates selfishness, competition, hatred. So it is due to ignorance that human mind turns to do all these wrong things. Therefore, human mind has to be changed. And the way to change it is bringing in spirituality. Spirituality can be promoted by religions, but religious people have to give up their labels. I'm a Buddhist, I'm a Christian, I'm a Hindu or something like that. They should feel that they are human beings with a lot of love in their hearts, cooperation, beneficence. Then, without any religious labels, the goodness in man gets developed. That is spirituality. So if we can awaken the world through religious people, religious teachings are not bad. Through them we have to release the spiritual feelings, spiritual thoughts, spiritual energies that we all have. Then promote it up. So that is really what we have to do.
In Buddhist belief, we are very connected. Everything is connected. And the Buddha, he was born, gained enlightenment, and passed away under the tree. So Buddhism and nature are one. And I believe also other religions, we all one. And so it is very important that we have to go back to get in touch with nature again in order to survive in this generation or the next generations.
Climate change is a common concern of the world citizen, as we are sharing the same planet, and all religions, all faith concerned about the sustainability of our future, sustainability of our earth, sustainability of the whole earth community. In our tradition we call it as vicegerent of the God, Khalifatullah, vicegerent of the God. We have been trusted by the God to protect, to respect, and to make it sustainable. Now, some religious ulama or scholars, they develop the so-called fiqh al-bi'ah. It means we develop our tradition on developing how to protect the environment from religious teaching. So in our jurisprudence, we develop this jurisprudence of the protection of environment, because in Islamic tradition we have 5 basic protection. First, protection of life. Second, protection of environment. Protection of the ideas of the free thought, and protections of properties, but also protection of genealogy, and also protection of the human dignity. So the protection of the environment is part of parcel in the whole protection of life.
In the Islam philosophy, we should live in the middle, not in the extremist right or left. We should live in the middle. We should not live in excessive. Islam should be implemented as rahmatan lil alamin, to make his prison on the prison of Islam has the impact of the balancing and then live in harmony. Not only in harmony with people, because the harmony in Islam, there is a good relationship between people or mankind with the God. This is the balancing between that, we call it vertical interaction, hablul minallah, relationship between mankind and the God. And the second one is the balancing between relationship between man and environment, hablul minanas, between man and man, between people and people, and also between people and his environment. That's why it is forbidden to do the garbage and then destroy the thing. This is in fact not forbidden, but is restricted. And in relation with climate change, I think there is the problem of imbalancing between the people live and their needs, and they want to live maybe better and so on. Finally, they destroy the environment and so on. The consequence will be the climate change, biodiversity gone, and so on. So in Islam, we think this is our duty also, to teach the follower. We should respect the environment. If we don't respect, it means maybe, my personally, we are not really good Muslim.
We must understand first, we are also part of nature. So we must always protect nature, and God has created the world, and He has the man as a co-creator. He has created, and He has put him as a custodian of this earth. So he should not, that spirituality says he should not do any wrong things, destroying earth. He must protect and preserve earth as a church, as a leader, as Christians. And we must answer God for all what we all do. So we must be ready while meeting Jesus and God. We must, we may be what you call accountability. We have accountability. We preserve this land. We preserve this world for this thing. If the world is in the right position, only the human can be in the right position.
Climate change disasters are pushing us to reconsider the way we live and the way we care for each other. And what I would like to see is that we walk through this transformation together in a sustainable way, in a way that we are protecting and honoring all life, all beings for all time. I believe we are all connected, and in a way we are responsible to each other. And when I say each other, I mean you to me, but also to the trees, to the earth, to the water, to the sky. We are integral, and we need to care for our global body as much as we need to care for our individual bodies and spirits.
Basically, the drivers of climate change is, at the moment, our definition of development is consumption. Conspicuous, consumerist consumption. That is the driver, is a primary driver. If we are not bound to consume so much, because the banks are always wanting us to consume, so the money is being turned over. Right. If you stop that, then the effect of climate change will get reduced, because we will be putting less and less material into the atmosphere. Right. This is the driver. Now, when we look at this driver and we say, okay, we are consuming a whole lot, but can't we consume a whole lot without destroying the planet? Yes, we can. But then we must be aware of the second driver, and that is fossil fuel, fossil carbon. As long as we are not dependent on fossil carbon for our consumption and our lifestyles, yes, that will not be a driver. But as long as we are, it will indeed be the driver of climate change. Fossil carbon, if you look at this planet, we have had the carbon dioxide component of this planet has been fairly stable. Going up and down, but fairly stable. But if you consider what has happened in this planet, we are constantly having volcanoes exploding and giving out volcanic gases. They are from the volcanoes, and we are constantly putting out carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Now, if something didn't remove it from the atmosphere, we won't be able to live. So life has learnt how to take the excess carbon dioxide, lock it up, and bury it under the ground, so that living things can carry on without any disturbance on the surface. This is an action of life. And we go down there and pull that toxin, the poison out, and we burn it to get power to run our cars, whatever we do. Oil is a biospheric toxin. It's a poison for the biosphere. Now, when the Shwa, the indigenous people of the Amazon, they're simple people. They don't have cars, they don't have anything really that we have. They have their forest, they have their families, they have their small vegetables, they live. But without any of the knowledge and information and science that we have, they realize and they say